Joining us is Major General Sudhakar Ji, who is a geopolitical and strategic expert, Mr. Vinod Rawal, a senior economist, as well as Mr. Sanjeev Srivastav, an international affairs expert. I'd like to first go to Major General Sudhakar Ji. Sir, what do you make of what is happening on ground on Bharat Mandapam? India has managed to forge a consensus on an issue as contentious as Ukraine. My colleague was just mentioning right now how Russia's name has been omitted from those paragraphs, and Prime Minister Modi's statement that this must not be an era of war is included as a separate paragraph in itself, this one statement, and has got unanimous consensus without any dissent. What do you make of this?
Pia, firstly, good morning, and thank you for getting me to this long duration narrative and the show. Let me at the very outset compliment you and NewsX, and particularly those who are on ground, mainly I would say Mega, for giving a very comprehensive coverage and also giving bites of special representatives of the delegations who have come for the meeting. It's very comprehensive, and kudos to all of them. Well, before I respond to your question, let me give a little preamble what our Honorable Prime Minister had outlined before the conduct of the G20 meeting, that this G20 meeting will be conducted on the paradigm or on the principles of inclusiveness. It will be ambitious, it will be action-oriented, and it will be decisive. I don't have words to actually compliment the team enough. It's a huge historical milestone, historically successful event conducted. I think post 1947, no other event of this stature with such a high degree of success has been achieved ever in the soil of India. And compliments to each and every one of the team members. Having said that, the question which you are asking, well, Ukraine, Russia, it's whether they are mentioned or not mentioned, the Delhi Declaration stands approved, it stands accepted by all the leaders. Again, the credit goes to the Sherpa, goes to the Minister of External Affairs and the entire team who have worked under the leadership of Narendra Modi. And that is because amount of hard work which has gone in to get a document in one shot approved by all the leaders of G20, it speaks volumes about the dedication and the exemplary commitment that these people have actually put in. So coming back to the question, what about the Ukraine and Russia? That is the beauty of, saying no without saying so. There is a old usage. So we have managed to actually, kill multiple birds with one stone and secure the commitment of one and all as members of G20, and by having used English language in such a flawless manner that we have been able to hit where we wanted to aim or wanted to actually hit the topic or touch the point. And without mentioning the name of Russia, I think that respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity has been more than adequately highlighted. And also it has been conveyed in a manner that this is not the era of war in such a profound manner with minutest details. I would say this document is not only a conceptual paper, it also outlines the roadmap as to how it is to be implemented. That is when the decisiveness, action-oriented thing is coming in. And next point I would like to highlight is that besides the Ukraine-Russia war, what is actually emerging is the new dimensions. We are in the 21st century. Up till, let's say, the pandemic, the beginning of pandemic, it was a different kind of a world order. Gone are the era of the bipolar or the Cold War 1.0. We are well into the unipolarity, wherein we started experiencing the vibes of a liberal kind of we all expected a kind of a liberal, kind of a rules-based international order. Well, that was not to come. We found lots of things happening contrary to our perception. But by and by, we started witnessing polycentric kind of a global order. We had Russia, we had China, and host of other countries, sticking out their heads. But in such kind of changing dynamics, pandemic turned out to be a big, I would say, kind of a watershed milestone, which demanded to look at the geopolitics of the global order with a new perspective. And that is where I think Indian leadership needs to be given compliments, they need to be acknowledged, wherein they have brought out that there is a shift between geopolitics to geoeconomics. We are at fault. We have made China the powerhouse, the factory of the world. All of us, USA, India, all of us, our dependency is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult to de-risk and diversify so fast. It will take minimum 10, 20 years, maybe 30 years to decouple completely from China and have a secure and reliable kind of a supply chain. So that brings me to the first point, that we have shifted from geopolitics to geoeconomics, and geoeconomics to a new dimension called as human-centric global order. That is where India needs to be complemented. Identification of the problem is the first step to find a correct solution. Second point that has got highlighted is that every one of us, whether it is a richer or a leading economy or a poor country, everyone's livelihood has been affected in some manner or the other, because there is a greater realization of disruption of the global supply chain. Therefore, the requirement has been adequately felt by one and all for the necessity of a resilient and a reliable supply chain, so that it, instead of centering around one country or being parked at or established in one country, it has to be a number of countries, so that you have multiple options than only one option. And third and most important thing is that there is a requirement to actually go in for expanded multilateralism in the global apex organization, that United Nations General Assembly and Security Council or the World Bank or IMF, whatever was created after post-1945 in the Cold War era. We are in the 21st century. Are they able to adequately meet the aspiration of the world? No. So that is where India has taken the best foot forward, taken the initiative, and ensured that African Union was actually included in the G20 as the 21st country, if you have to count them as per the numbers. So that's a very magnificent, I would say, it's a master stroke which has been played by India, wherein the 55 countries under African Union have been brought under the umbrella, because to my understanding and research, had India not taken this initiative, I am very sure that African Union would have been admitted by Xi Jinping in the forthcoming BRICS. So it's a master stroke which has been done. And we have a huge, I would say, Indian diaspora there. And next thing that has happened about the corridor, little while back, I was hearing what you're talking about, this Europe, West Asia and India spice corridor. Well, the spice corridor is a historical corridor. If it is to fructify and materialize, the most important thing is national interest of India is going to be more than adequately. But there are 8 million. Officially, they say 8 million, but as per my research, it's touching almost about 11 million Indians who are there in the GCC in the Middle East. I myself, I have been a president and CEO of a multinational company in the Middle East. We have a large number. Out of 100 billion or more remittances, $100 billion every year. Earlier, it used to be $83 billion per year, remittances coming to India. These days, it has crossed the figure of 100 billion. Almost about 79 to 83% of the remittances coming to India are from the Middle East. Just imagine, by a multimodal means of connectivity, you have rail, you have roads, you have other digital connectivity and host of other issues. Aren't the Indians going to be well connected with the motherland? Isn't the trade going to improve? Yes, certainly. And same, the Europe today, as we are talking in this program, our the trade with Europe is just about 50 billion, whereas China is touching almost close to 560 billion or more than 500 billion per year. So therefore, this connectivity is going to give an impetus. It is actually going to give a push to our trading activities with Middle East as also the European countries. Connectivity is also another issue. This connectivity that we have been talking of, it's there in the master document, the joint declaration. The very concept of these 4 issues, inclusiveness, ambitious, action-oriented decisiveness, There is a hallmark in the master document we are talking about, joint declaration, to my understanding, is the last mile connectivity. Nobody has been left out. Nobody, whether you talk internally or externally, everyone, that is the concept of leadership. Our Honorable Prime Minister, he believes, he practices, he walks the talk, and he believes in carrying the team from behind. He doesn't leave behind anything. That is the hallmark, I would say. It's a landmark kind of achievement in this document in such a short time. And in addition to all this, there are many more things happening. Talk about the biofuel alliance or the solar alliance, or you talk about the women-led development or the digital public platform on infrastructure, which is taking place. I heard the World Bank president today talking about that, how the digital public infrastructure is going to be adopted by World Bank very soon. They have agreed. So it's a huge, going to be a force multiplier, not only for India, but for the global order, because this is the concept which Narendra Modi has been trying to propagate. Sharing the prosperity should become one of the themes of international rules-based order, not by isolating or by unilateralism, like the way China. It has got control over the rare earth element. If I'm not wrong, it's around 97% of the rare earth element available on this planet are under the control of China. Rare earth element, it enables us to produce semiconductors, special metals, which are used for very state-of-the-art equipment. When you talk about the warfare or military equipment, you have every stealth equipment, any missile which is produced, any aircraft which is produced, without a semiconductor of high gadgetry or high degree kind of a precision, nothing can be operational. Talking about the household products, whether it is a fridge or a refrigerator or a AC or your cooking range or your motor car or your laptop or mobile, anything, name anything, without a semiconductor, your lifestyle goes for a fat, absolutely defunct. So therefore, the whole thing has been addressed in a very comprehensive manner. Even I would say that the issues which do not form the primary mandate of G20 also has been beautifully stitched and made coherent in a seamless manner. Heartiest compliments to the team which is working so hard, produce such a wonderful product, and we look forward to a peaceful harmony. Thus, the agenda has been set for the day. It's beautifully crafted. Everything has been looked through, and the Honorable Prime Minister has actually taken the lead by welcoming everyone at Rajghat and paying our tribute to the father of the nation. Also in that, we have managed to convey that violence is not going to give us what we are looking for. It is only peace and harmony which is going to give us development, give us solution. So I think the stage has been set, and let's look ahead, look for the better part of the day with some positive and productive outcome about the future of the world. Back to you, Pia.
Indeed, sir. Before I'd like to rope in my other guests, I have my colleague Brian joining me live from Humayun's tomb. I believe he has some delegates from Brazil with him at this point. Brian, over to you. It seems as if the delegates are enjoying, the culture and history, our vibrant culture and history. Could you take us through what is happening on ground over there?
Definitely, you could see that this is the entry for the general public, and it's been closed because of the delegates that are there. The Brazilian delegates are here, and this side also you could see that there's a speaker also where they are continuously, patrolling and saying people's urging.
Well, it seems like there is a connectivity issue at Brian's end. We are getting some trouble as far as your phone line as well as the live setup is concerned. We'll come back to you in a while, Brian, once that connection is sorted. But meanwhile, I have with me on the broadcast Mr. Sanjeev Srivastava, International Affairs expert. Before I go to you, sir, there's a rather interesting statement that has been given by the European Commission's president. She has spoken on the digital public infrastructure and has stated that India has achieved remarkable success in rolling out its digital public infrastructure. This is of course evident with the fact that our UPI has been a huge success. But apart from this, Harshvardhan Shringla, the chief coordinator of India's G20 presidency, has also stated that with regards to the document, that it's a momentous thing, because in a normal multilateral process, one usually has to wait on the outcome document till the very end of the session. But this time, it's come on the very first day. What is your reaction to all of this?
Well, Pia, I think this shows the kind of deep and very high also credibility which India is having at this point of time. And it is India only which could have lead the world to come up with this kind of joint declaration. No other country in the world, in the current world order, in the current uncertain strategic scenario, has this kind of a credibility what India is having. And as President Biden himself has noted this point, that India's presidency of the G20 has come at a very right time. And at a time when there is a growing contestation for influence, enhancing their influence in the global affairs by major powers, the Ukraine war is very much on, and the threat of any kind of attack on Taiwan is very much there. And the way China has come up with its various expansionist, opportunistic, imperialistic agendas, and China is continuously exposing itself by coming out with the so-called standard maps, etc. I think in these uncertain times, and obviously I would like to mention here that because of this growing contestation for influence and power, the international economic order, the various supply chains, whether it is a food supply chain or energy supply chain or fertilizer supply chain, have got seriously stressed out. So in these uncertain scenarios of the world, India's presidency has come up at a very right time, and the kind of a result we have got after this G20 summit is of enormous significance for entire international community. And this message of this joint declaration is very loud and clear that international rules-based order must be protected, and there has to be a respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, or any country's sovereign right of determining their own foreign policy choices, and that should be and must be respected. So I think, and various, as Major General Sudhakar ji sir has very come up with a very comprehensive explanation about what has come up with this joint declaration. I would like to say that this kind of result which has come out after this G20 summit, this was possible only under India's presidency. And this has happened, Priya, I would like to say here that this was not possible if Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, and Atithi Devo Bhava. This kind of big ideals through which India led this entire G20 presidency. I think because of such ideals and the practice of those ideals into the reality, this kind of a result has been possible. Also, I would like to say that if you look at India's position on the Ukraine conflict, from day one, India is the country which has been talking about dialogue and negotiations. India has been saying from day one that the dialogue and negotiation is the only way through which this conflict could be resolved. This conflict cannot be resolved on war fields. And also, if you look at India's stand during the various UN Security Council resolutions, obviously India abstained on almost all occasions, but after those abstentions we came out with our explanatory points also. In those explanatory points we had made our position very clear that dialogue and negotiations is the only way out. There has to be end of hostilities as quickly as possible, as early as possible, and war and violence is not the solution of any conflict. Also, though we have not taken any sides of of any conflicting party in this conflict, obviously. But we have made our position with very clear that we are with peace, we are at the side of stability, we are at the side of respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity, we are for rules-based order. So our position has been very, very clear and consistent, but also it was a prudent, wise, balanced, and because of the kind of image India is having of having a prudent voice of wisdom, voice of hope, I think India was the best country at this point of time in these uncertain times, which could have led to this kind of resolution, this kind of a joint declaration. So I think it's a huge diplomatic victory. I completely agree with Major General Sudhakarji sir that it is obviously a great achievement India has achieved, probably the most significant diplomatic achievement we have achieved through this kind of a joint declaration. And obviously with this kind of successful organization of this G20 presidency, we have demonstrated our capability that India is very much ready to lead the world. India has emerged as a leader after this kind of G20 presidency and the kind of declaration and results which have come out under the India's presidency. So as I have been saying on your channel, Pia, that India's voice is the voice of wisdom. India's voice is the voice of hope. Also, let me say here once again that India's voice is the voice of the voiceless. The kind of advocacy we have done for the inclusion of the African Union into G20, now it is G21, it is possible because of the India's visionary leadership. When we say that we believe in the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we do not say only these words, but we act on these words. And because of the India's action, India's leadership, India's guidance, I think this has been made possible that the African Union has now become the part of the G20. It has now become G21. So India's leadership has been enormously significant, and world, as President Biden, I would reiterate his words that India's presidency has come up at a very right time when the world is having so much of difficulties, challenges, and international fault lines are deepening, etc., etc. So I think this declaration is a very good news for the world that despite all uncertainties, despite all darkness, there is a light of hope, and India has come up with that light of hope, with the light of with the voice of wisdom, with the voice of prudence, and I'm sure that in times ahead, when the international community take action with regard to providing stability, peace, security, prosperity, India is going to contribute a lot in the various global affairs which will come up before the international community.
Indeed, I'd also like to rope in Mr. Vinod Rawal, a senior economist who's been waiting with us rather patiently. Sir, Mr. Srivastav just mentioned how India has been a voice of reason, and we have of course led the pitch to include the African Union into the G20. How do you think their inclusion will help in furthering economic ties with countries across Africa?
Good morning, Pia. The thing is basically, Sudhak, Mr. Srivastava has rightly mentioned that we have proven ourselves as a voice of voiceless. That is the important line. Basically, the Prime Minister has said day before that now from global trust deficit, we are coming to relationship of trust. First of all, we have to look for the trust matter. With this G20, whatever we are seeing for the last almost 36 hours, the pictures, the visuals which you are showing on your screen is not the normal visuals. We will not be able to see in our lifetime what I feel in my life, that so much of head of the states lined up at Bapu Samadhi on the Bapu's bhajans. Can you imagine this much of things? The way, the body language, the head of the states are posing towards this country. This is not only Prime Minister Modi to whom they are coming up. It is the power of the country where we have stood up now. The country has shown its economic power. I do agree with Sudhakarji that war is not the solution. Peace and harmony is important. Peace and harmony, we have shown to the world that peace and harmony is going to take us forward. Along with that now, economy is also required. For the economic factors, all the countries are on consensus on this, that India is the only country where our interests are saved. We believe in formula of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, one earth, one nation. That's the thing. We believe the whole world globe as one place. If you really see all that, and we are working on that, we are not saying only this. On the other side, if you really see, the 83 paras has been signed with 100% consensus. That is, the devils will come out in the evening, that what is in those paragraphs, that we will understand. But on the other side, with 100% consensus, this is there, where US President is there, UK Prime Minister is there, all the heads of states are signing in consensus. Then the things comes with the spice corridor. With the spice corridor, the economic, Europe is the major importer. Everybody knows this, and our share with export goes up. On the other side, at domestic front, we are already working on millets. The food served to the head of states is of millets. That shows the idea, Shri Anna, that millets are going to be exported. And who are the consumers? Basically, we are teaching to the Europe, to the Middle East. The whole this corridor, which was the old corridor, it is now the Silk Route. We will not be talking about the China. And we are not saying this. We have already proved it in past, at the time of COVID, vaccination. We have proved it that we care for the world. We have helped the world. The purpose of G20, which I now call it as G21, it is not now G20. We should call it now G21. Is the era. Now it's an Indian era. This is not an era of the bigger economies. The spice route is there. The biofuel is there on the economic front. Then the major key change is financial digital infrastructure, UPI and other platforms. Any country in the world is not able to make this kind of platform where you can transfer your money at such a fast pace, and that too without paying any cost. That's making a difference. The Europe has also adopted it. UK is going to adopt it. When the countries to whom you call Global South, all these countries come on the platform. Now China is nowhere. It doesn't make any difference whether that country has joined or not. However, they have given their representation, and we have not seen any resistance from them also, because it's 100% consensus on all this.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.